That's the thing I wanted. Let's see.
This is something you guys have been requesting the hell out of for a long time. It took a lot of time, but I finally found 3 stories that take place during school lockdowns. It was a typical boring day in calculus, only it was Friday, 7th period, meaning the week was almost over and spring break would finally be upon us. So everybody was getting antsy in their seats, I could tell. We didn't have a test that day like a lot of my friends did with their other teachers, so our teacher in the middle of class just decided to start playing games with us on Sporkle.com. He was a very laid-back teacher like that.
That's cool.
As we were doing some brand logo quiz on Sporkle, I remember the exact moment it happened. Right after my friend answered a question, I remember the exact answer too, Adidas. The dean's voice came through the loudspeaker. He sounded panicked and frantic as he told all the teachers this was not a drill and to go into lockdown. I actually got the chills and I got goosebumps on my arms as our usually laid-back teacher too seemed panicked as he ran to turn off the lights and ushered us to the back corner of the room. We all sat in silence for about 2 minutes, and then the usual buzzing that came from a panel in the back of the room ceased, indicating that the school must have cut all the power. We all looked at each other, realizing this must be serious. A few more minutes of waiting later, we heard a man screaming at the top of his lungs coming down the hallway. 2 girls in the class actually started crying, which made all of us even more scared. As the screaming got closer to the classroom, the lunatic-sounding man started banging on the lockers while screaming, "I'll kill all of you." It was at that moment that I started to fear for my life.
Oh
My
gosh.
teacher shushed us as we all looked at each other to see our peers' reactions. The banging then moved from the lockers to our classroom door. And that's when one of the crying girls screamed no. The banging on the door only grew worse as the man started screaming, "Open up." 2 of the girls in the class were crying out loud now. It felt like an eternity that that man was pounding at the door. But eventually, he finally continued down the hallway, screaming like a mentally insane person until we could not hear him anymore. I'd say 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour given the situation, the dean came back on the loudspeaker explaining the situation, which was surprising for him to do. He explained that some apparently mentally unstable person entered the building and assaulted the woman sitting at the front desk, causing her to flee the building screaming, and staff wasn't sure if the man was armed or not. Now, this was before the school had cameras or could afford proper security, so the school was wide open to something like this happening. The staff had done a sweep of all the hallways and classrooms and couldn't find him, so the dean instructed the teachers to resume teaching but to keep all the doors locked and to not let any students leave for any reasons. The most disturbing part, however, is that one of the janitors working the night shift found the man sleeping in one of the storage closets near the back end of the school, and according to rumors that were spread by my peers, sticking out of his pocket was a .44 Magnum. The janitor must have done something stupid to wake him up, for example, leaving the closet door open, because by the time a police officer could arrive on the scene, the man was gone. My entire class, as far as I know, to this day, has no idea if this man was ever found, but I like to think that right now, he's being given the proper help that he needs.
Okay.
My school has 2 lunch periods. First lunch period is for all 6th graders and some 7th graders. The second lunch period is for the other half of the 7th graders and all 8th graders. The lockdown happened in the beginning of October. The day the lockdown occurred, it was overcast and rainy. During the first lunch period, I heard 4 loud booms. I personally thought it was thunder, but the entire lunch crowd started screaming. I was thinking those kids were just serious pussies, but the campus security came in and started yelling at people to go into the multi-purpose room. And the kids who were in line buying lunch had to throw out their lunch and come inside. Me and some friends went inside the room along with a huge group of other kids. Everyone was curious as to what was happening. Our multi-purpose room is huge, and the back wall of the room is made of see-through glass. When me and my friends were rushed inside the campus, security was covering the glass with the curtains, and there were adults at every exit. My friend Eric was curious, as well as the rest of us, so he asked one of the adults what was going on. When he came back, he said, "You know how right in front of TMS there's those houses?" I replied, "Yeah." "There's this mentally disabled, crazy man that barricaded himself in front of his house, and he's threatening to commit suicide and kill the cops if he's evicted. He was walking around outside of school watching kids in a weird way," Eric told us. It turned out the man was also a registered sex offender, making matters worse. We were stuck in the multi-purpose room for a whole hour, taking up 2 periods. After the whole thing was settled, we were escorted to our classrooms one by one. I later found out that the man lives next to my friend Brandy, who told me about the previous Halloween when she saw the same man at his window cutting his arm and writing in his own blood, "Don't come here or I'll kill you," on his window. Of course, being Halloween, people, including Brandy, assumed it was just for the holiday. But after this horrific incident, we knew this man was mental, and we're glad he never got near us. I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college, and I recently got a job at my old high school as a sort
Just
of
move, come
computer
on.
intern in the school basement. The basement of the school is very messy and disorganized, but there is a small 3-person office that's actually very nice down there. It has 3 nice big desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat screen TV mounted on the wall,
Oh,
and
yes.
also satisfying
Mental
air
disorder,
conditioning,
man.
a luxury the students and teachers cannot enjoy in the school. And of course, all the school servers and other computery stuff. I got the job because 3 of my old computer teachers flat out adored me. I could actually consider them as real friends, not just teacher figures. So they all helped tremendously in landing me this job. It's been great, until something that happened a few weeks ago. My 2 coworkers that shared the office with me, Dave and Gary, weren't in the office at the time. They were upstairs working on papers or whatever. I was eating my sandwich during my lunch break when I got a phone call from one of the women in the front office, telling me the school was on lockdown and that somebody, possibly armed, had entered the school. There wasn't much that I could do other than turn off the lights because, surprisingly, as nice as this little office was, it didn't have an actual door to it, just a big opening, and the door to the whole basement didn't even have a working lock. For my own safety, I did turn off all the lights in the office and my computer screen. I kept my phone on the desk, texting both Gary and Dave, but they wouldn't respond. I sat down there in the dark, playing games on my phone for like 20 minutes, waiting for the call from up front to tell me to resume working. I had no idea what was happening. I couldn't hear what was going on upstairs from down here. But I was not allowed to make any calls until I was informed that the lockdown was over. Then the noisy basement door opened. As the creaking echoed across the basement and into my office, I sat up from my seat, wondering if I should call out Gary or Dave. I was eager to get some info from them. Someone then came running down the stairs, and their footsteps were approaching my office.
Uh-oh.
I pushed away my chair and crawled under my desk. Somebody entered the office but did not turn on the lights. There was just silence. I can't even describe the fear I was experiencing. I felt like if I made one sudden noise, I'd be a dead man. Suddenly, my phone dinged as I got a text message. I felt my entire world shrivel up and die at that one moment as I clenched my teeth in fear. footsteps suddenly moved closer to me until I finally dove out from under the desk in capitulation, begging whoever it was not to kill me. And just then, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me up. It was some guy in a red plaid button-up jeans and a reddish-black cap. He told me, "It's okay, I'm just down here hiding with you." "What's going on up there?" I whispered to him. He kind of ignored my question and asked me if there's an exit down here. I told him, "Yeah, around that way." Before he could do anything else, I asked him, "Who are you?"
Thumbs
There
up
was
to
a
him.
brief moment of silence before
Shout
he
out.
started explaining he was coming in to pick up his son when a teacher told him to hide. After his explanation, I checked my phone and saw the text I received was from Dave. It said, "Dude, this is fucking crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and a hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." I was about to reread that text out loud to the man until I realized. I looked up and felt my stomach sink. The man seemed to catch on to my suspicious stare. Panicking, all I could think to do was to run for the upstairs. A gunshot echoed through the basement, and I could hear the bullet ricochet off something metal in the darkness. But thank God the bullet missed me, and I made it upstairs. Fortunately, police were waiting at all exits, including the basement exit. I caught the man the second he opened the door. More good news. Our teacher, Mr.
Hey, winning
Buckley,
all the
survived the
subscribers.
gunshot. It was later determined that the man and Mr. Buckley had some beef for whatever reason, but that was never revealed. All we know is that Mr. Buckley couldn't have done anything that would have warranted this kind of reaction. And I know that this...
Okay. Watching. What's this? This one's probably not scary. Okay, so this one's fake. No, I know him. His name's Jeff.
What's up, Mr. Grace? Mr. Jeffries? You know the halls I see?
That was actually Mr. Jeffries.
What class are you avoiding this afternoon? Math. Alright. Good class. Alright, I'm on my way. See you later, Mr. Grace.
Just gotta go potty.
I repeat, this is a lockdown. Faculty and students, this is a lockdown. I repeat, this is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately. Attention faculty and students, this is a lockdown. I repeat, this is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately. Attention faculty and students, this is a lockdown. I repeat, this is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately. Attention faculty and students, this is a lockdown. I repeat, this is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately. Attention faculty and students, this is a lockdown. I repeat,
Okay, we get
this
it.
is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately. Attention faculty and students, this is a lockdown. This is a lockdown. Secure all rooms immediately.
Mr. Briggs, is this a drill? This is David Briggs. I'm a teacher at Nicholas Middle School. Yeah, Michigan.
Uh-oh, it's a popo.
I'm sure this is all in the news by now. Just let her know you're okay. Tell her you are. It's gone. Should we go through the classroom? No, they won't let us in. You tell them we are. Classrooms have to stay locked until the building's clear. Keep the outer door locked. We'll just stand there. Connor, you okay? I'm scared. You're being so brave. Yeah. No, I do too. We just have to wait a little while longer.
It's not that brave.
Attention faculty and students, the building is now clear. Please remain in your classroom. You will soon be joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit. Faculty
Be a little loud. They have to check every room.
is now clear.
They'll find us.
Remain in your classroom. You will soon be joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit. Attention faculty and students, the building is now clear. Please remain in your classroom. Joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit.
Okay, I seriously get it.
Attention faculty
I get it.
students, the building is now clear. Please remain
Okay,
in
the
your
building's
classroom.
clear. I get it.
You will soon be joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit.
Escort you to jail.
Attention faculty and students, the building is now clear.
I get it.
Remain in your classroom. You will soon be joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit. Attention faculty and students, the building
Oh,
is
this
now
is credit. Okay.
Please remain in your classroom. You will soon be joined by a police officer who will escort you to the nearest exit. Attention faculty and students, the building is now clear. Please remain in your classroom. You will soon be joined by
this is going to be about the... And he shot back a couple of times
Really?
and hit the guy. I didn't hear those other ones because I was running to my class because I heard the shots go off. So we had a really big code red. The other guy that I saw running, yeah, he was an escaped, like, convict or something. He was the partner to the other guy, and he had shot at the police officer. So the police officer turned out to be okay. It hit his vest. I guess that's what happened. Obviously, I guess that guy had really bad aim. But we didn't know this at the time. The only thing that I knew was I saw a cop drive by, 2 people in the car, and a ton of shots going off around. So I run back to my class. Immediately, they call out code red. It's like, literally, this was on campus. This was, like, right next to where I was, and it scared me halfway to death. Like, it was not fun. So we were sitting in class, and, everybody was freaking out, and, all the police come, and for the next couple of, like, days, I was so paranoid I would not go to the bathroom, because I didn't know if they found him or not, but it turns out they did find him, and he happened to be in somebody's basement, I think. Yeah, it was in somebody's basement. So
Oh, that's nice.
he turned out to be found, but it scared the living heck out of me. So that was a pretty traumatic experience. And then one time,
I ain't playing the gun game, really. Well, it's
we had
Roblox, but
this code red. This was 8th grade, I believe. Yeah, 8th grade, so last year. And what it was nobody told us, but there were a lot of rumors about what was going on. And apparently, what it was, there was a parent with a weapon who'd come on the campus to kill or injure somebody, and that had literally scared the living days out of me. Or it was also at the time. Oh yeah, so that's just one of them. And then in 7th grade, that was when all the clowns were coming around. That big old ordeal. So basically, what had happened was there was this report of a clown that came onto our campus and was, I guess, causing havoc, and that scared everybody. Like, everybody was, like, scarred. Like, it was bad. So during the one in 8th grade, during the code red in 8th grade, we heard this knocking on our door, like a boom, 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 like a really loud knocking. It scared the heck out of everybody. We didn't know what it was, who it was, or if it was anybody that we knew. And so we couldn't open the door. We didn't want to, because we've heard so many stories about how people are, like, when they go into schools and, like, they'll act like they're a student and stuff like that. So we didn't open the doors, and then I started to have a panic attack. I've never had one before, but let me just tell you, it was not fun. It was my first panic attack, and I could not stop shaking. My teacher had to come over because I was so panicked I kept on banging my head against the back of the wall that we were sitting on. It was making noise. I don't remember any of this that well. Like,
say
it was
sitting
just
or
all really fast. But after that had happened, we got normal code yellow, and then the whole day we just sat and watched movies because kids were, like, having, like, a lot of stress. It was just not fun. I've had other experiences like this, and it's basically just really, really scary. So, yeah. I hope you guys did enjoy the video today. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, and I will see you guys later. Love y'all. Peace.
okay, that's my end of the video. Oh no, one more actually.
Attention all students and staff. At this time, we are conducting an internal lockdown. This is not a drill. Please
It's probably gonna be
initiate
scary.
lockdown at this time. Hello, and welcome to All Dante Creepypasta.
Don't
My
like
name is
me.
Cece, and I started this series 1 year ago when I brought you those first 3 Halloween horror stories.
This time, I'm back with a scary clown creepypasta, so whatever you're doing this Halloween, turn this story on in the background for some extra chills. Let's dig right in. As a kid, I never really understood why some of my classmates were afraid of clowns. I didn't really find them scary. Not that I found them funny either. Most of them just looked kind of goofy and dumb. I remember having this exact argument with my best friend Kevin at the lunch tables in elementary. His argument was always that I needed to see the movie It in order to understand, but being in second grade at the time, my parents would never let me watch it. I actually remember on Halloween, some of the older kids in the neighborhood dressed up as clowns and went around scaring trick-or-treaters. Maybe I just had thick skin, but I remember one of them chasing our entire friend group and me being left on the sidewalk laughing at their expense. But anyways, this story takes place in November of that second grade year, just after Halloween. We were sitting in math class, boring as ever. When situations like this arise, which were quite often during math, Kevin and I would meet in the bathroom and trade baseball cards. We had a system. One of us would give the signal and we would stagger our bathroom requests, not to raise suspicion from our teacher. On this particular occasion, Kevin had gone off to the bathroom first, and I gave it a good 5 minutes before raising my hand. As I was waiting to be called on, our teacher, Mr. Davis, was interrupted by the sound of the intercom, which was strange because they usually only did announcements at the beginning and end of the day. Attention all students and staff. At this time, we are conducting an internal lockdown. This is not a drill. Please initiate lockdown at this time. Our teacher was pretty calm with his response, walking over to the door and locking it. He told us all to line up against the back wall and keep quiet as he crossed the room to pull down the blinds. I figured he had been through many lockdown drills before, and this probably wasn't anything big. We had a lockdown at my old school once, and it turned out to be a parent who just forgot to sign in. We waited like that for about 5 minutes. One kid asked Mr. Davis how much longer it would be, and he got a hard shh from our teacher, signaling that no talking would be tolerated. It was about this time when I remembered that Kevin was still in the bathroom. I debated in my head on whether I should bring this to the teacher's attention, but was ultimately too scared after seeing that other kid get scolded for making a pee. That might sound kind of ridiculous given the circumstances, but keep in mind I was only 7 years old at the time, and I was still very intimidated by authority. We waited in silence for a little while longer. Each minute that passed, the situation got more tense. I started to feel anxiety, butterflies in my stomach. That's when there was another announcement on the intercom. This circus music started playing over the intercom. And then after that, there was what sounded like laughter in the background. One of the girls in the class asked Mr. Davis what was going on. He told her to keep quiet, but his voice cracked and he stuttered in saying so. That may have actually been the scariest part of the whole ordeal for me. Being a kid and seeing an adult, and on top of that, someone who you're supposed to feel safe with, being visibly shaken like that, it was terrifying. I guess I wasn't the only one who felt that way. I could hear sniffles coming from one of the other kids, like they had been crying. Abruptly, the music just stopped. We were all sitting on the floor in a line in the corner of the room. I actually closed my eyes, as if that would somehow help me, but nothing could block out the breathing that I heard blaring over the school intercom. Until it stopped. We sat in silence for a while longer, hearts racing, minds racing faster. The silence was broken by a slam and a group of screams. The sound traveled from down the hall. At this, I opened my eyes to see Mr. Davis jump up and push the big wooden teacher's desk from across the room in front of the door. I noticed tears streaming down his cheeks as he did so. I started to feel sick to my stomach as the anxiety continued to build. Footsteps approached from down the hallway. They stopped near our door. I could see a shadow on the wall standing out there. I could tell by the shape that it was the shadow of a clown. After a short pause, it seemed like the shadow had disappeared, and I started to feel a little bit of relief that the clown had walked away. There was a bang on the door, and suddenly, standing at the the door window was a terrifying-looking clown with bright white face paint, a huge cartoony toothy smile painted on his face to contrast the cold, evil-looking smirk on his actual lips. He was somewhat overweight and wore a big, baggy clown suit. The whole class screamed as he repeatedly tried to open the door. He went from trying to wiggle the doorknob free to rearing back and trying to kick in the wooden door, the class screaming each time he did so. It realistically didn't last too long before he gave up and moved on, but it felt like forever to me at the time. That was the last we saw of the mysterious lockdown clown. But in all of the hysteria, I completely forgot about Kevin. The lockdown lasted for another 20 minutes or so until each room was cleared. They made the announcement over the intercom, telling us the lockdown was over and teachers could resume classes. They didn't actually ever say what happened, probably not wanting to raise any panic. A few minutes later, Kevin appeared at the door and looked like an absolute wreck. His hair was literally standing up on end. He had dark circles around his eyes and tears streaming down his face. His entire body was shaking. I'd never seen someone so disheveled. Class was once again interrupted so that our teacher could escort Kevin to the nurse. He didn't come back to class after that, and his parents ended up holding him out of school for a full 3 weeks to recover. He came back just before winter break. I asked him what happened a couple of times, but he always just told me that he didn't want to talk about it. He ended up coming to school for the rest of second semester before his family moved away at the start of that summer. He was just never quite the same after that. We never got an official story on what had happened, only a swirl of rumors that the intruder had never actually been found. I shuddered to think about what would have happened if Mr. Davis hadn't pushed the desk up along the door. Anyways, I remembered about this story all these years later because I oftentimes cut through this park on the way home from the bus station. They had a carnival going on over the weekend. It was closed now, but it was about 2 a.m. as I cut through the fairground. One of the ticket booths had a light that had been left on, the only light in the entirety of the area for that matter. And that's when I saw a clown crash up against the glass and stare at me with those wide eyes. It may have been just some teenagers or YouTubers pulling a prank, but I ran as fast as I could and didn't stop until I was locked inside of my room, because clowns terrify me now. Thanks for listening to All Dante Creepypasta. Your total for this episode comes out to $27, but if you like this video right now, I'll waive that fee and give you everything you just listened to absolutely free. The creepy clown music was done by the talented Robert Austin, and the outro music
Make sure to like and subscribe. Goodbye. That's it. Okay, yeah, just make sure to like and subscribe.